And with us now, Jordan Ditloff, Libertarian Party candidate for the Senate in Victoria at next year's federal election. Jordan, nice to chat.
Hey Leo, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. So we spoke when you and your party launched this targeted membership campaign at Liberals, really off the back of that of the coalition support for the social media ban. Have you got any update on how that's going in terms of membership numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the ex-Liberal membership itself, which is a free financial membership for former Liberal Party members, we're now very close to the midpoint of the sort of hundreds. We're at about 150 or so new members of that type, but we've also got probably around 20 or 30 additional members who just signed up as full financial members and didn't even sort of wait or try to go through that free membership. They felt that strongly about their disappointment that they really went straight to the full financial membership. So it's been a massive, impactful campaign, and I think it just highlights the depth of the feeling on this issue in the Liberal base.
And certainly, I mean, your party for some time, especially since the name change to the Libertarians, has targeted disaffected Liberals. Look, many of your members are former Liberals. John Ruddock is one. Of course, he's an MLC. Ross Cameron. But of course, you know, there have been other members of your party who have come from elsewhere. I remember speaking in the local
Yes,
elections campaign, a former Greens candidate who was running for the Libertarians. But in
indeed.
terms of specifically on disaffected Liberals, is that where you're mainly thinking growth could come from, especially if we're talking about numbers that could help you, man a booth at the next election?
Yeah, well, I think that what we're seeing in the composition of the people who are taking this offer up is many of them are over 50. Many of them are that older sort of generation of Liberal supporters who would be the ones rocking up in the rain, hail, or shine to hand out how to vote cards, who would be the sort of loyal foot soldiers of the Liberal Party at an election campaign. And they're the very same people that Peter Dutton is sort of asking to, lay back and think of England while he betrays the values of the Liberal Party. And I think that in the past, he could afford to do that because there was nowhere else for them to go. But those days are gone. So I do think that not just the number of new members, but the sort of composition of that membership base will probably be keenly felt on election day.
Do you think, and look, I asked this when we first spoke about this membership offering, but do you think now that you've got more attention on this, you're talking about these numbers, that the coalition and the Liberal Party will start to pay attention, not discounting you as some, minor party that has only a handful of seats?
Well, look, the extent to which they do that publicly remains to be seen. But certainly internally, I know that they're to describe the sort of internal leadership circles of the Liberal Party as in a mild state of panic right now probably wouldn't be an overstatement. And the reality is they were told that this would happen by a number of people if they didn't change course on this policy issue. And we still expect that there will be potentially cooperation and alignment between us and the Liberals, providing that they do the right thing and do what they say on the packet. But to the extent that they don't, or to the extent that they take that support for granted, there's certainly a lot of different things that can happen.
Yeah. Now, moving on to a similar topic, we only saw the other day another defection to your party at the local level. Steve Christo, a Cumberland councillor, pretty prominent local councillor in New South
Yeah, former
Wales,
mayor.
and yeah, exactly, a former mayor, initially Labor, then OLC, and now he's gone to your party. And as we've discussed, right, have been plenty of people who have joined your party in recent times. This is something that could be a whole broader conversation that we could go into for hours. But in terms of in the kind of notional quote unquote right wing minor parties, are you, as the Libertarians, now kind of cementing your place as a major player amongst likes of One Nation, and we'll get him to him in a sec, the UAP?
Yeah, I think I would describe us as in the ecosystem of the centre and right minor parties. I think we're much more a centre party. It's difficult to put us in a box, and I think the media struggles to describe us. And when they talk about Javier Milei and say far right, I think it's just a complete misdescription. But at the same time, if you're getting some publicity and traction, you're not necessarily going to correct the misunderstandings. But I do agree. I think that we are entering a period of consistent improvement, performance, and professionalism that I think will see us, particularly with the investment in the local government elections. I think that can't be underestimated in terms of how important that is for growing and incubating future leaders within the party. That's what the Greens have long done. They've sort of attacked from the two pincer, one from the local government and then one from the Senate when it comes to the kind of golden goose that all minor parties pursue of winning lower house seats. Yeah, you can't just come at it from nothing. You've either got to do it organically with real grassroots effort, which is the path the Greens went down and the path we're going down, or you have to throw a huge amount of money at it, which the Teals are doing. But the legislative reform that the government and the opposition recently passed is aimed at closing that gap where the Teals can just massively fundraise and disproportionately spend in one seat.
Yeah, I mean, look, like them or hate them, and I'm sure many do hate them who might be watching this and supporting you. The Greens have undoubtedly been successful at the local level. You look at all their state parties, and it's where they get their first representatives, and then they're able to build up campaigns from there. And I think that's something some people have brought up as maybe a small factor in the decline of the Democrats, because they were never big in terms of local elections. Many factors could go into the death of the Australian Democrats, or well, they will tell us they're still alive. They are technically still alive. Again, another matter. On the kind of split of the, I know, right wing, quote unquote, minor parties here. And it was interesting, by the way, Steve Christo was initially planning to form his own party before defecting to the Libertarians. So it's kind of stopped that one coming up. Are you concerned, though, still that without a proper alliance, without proper how to vote card negotiations, that there still could be enough of a vote split that maybe harms a quote unquote freedom senator getting up in yourself in Victoria or maybe someone else in Queensland? Because that is something that people brought up for 2022 and many other elections as well.
Yeah, I think that the next 3 or 4 months will see and will need to see a concerted effort in voter education in terms of preferential voting and the importance of really carefully considering where your vote goes. I think that last time we saw in 2022 this kind of campaign of put the majors last. I think I always worry a little bit about negative campaigns that are framed that way because a lot of times people who have a particular preference or allegiance towards one major party or another, but they sort of have a minor party they like, they will hear put the majors last and they'll go, oh yeah, so I'm going to vote my favorite minor party, then a major, and then put the whoever my less favorite major and the Greens are last. I think that what I'd like to see at the next federal election and what I'd like to work towards from a voter education point of view is a campaign of, put a minor party first or put minor parties first and really take a positive spin on that and emphasize the voter education of it's okay to put a minor party first. You have full control of your preferences in the federal elections, and in particular in the Senate race, where you really do have a huge amount of sway that I think voters need to be taught how to use.
Yeah, and I think, look, I'm not advocating for any specific party here, but again, a lot of people maybe don't understand that you can have two minor parties that you like, and if you preference both of them higher than a major, one of them can get up, right? It's
Yeah.
not as simply one minor party exists, and that has been a bit of a problem, and many comments about preferential voting there. One minor party that does exist isn't registered, the United Australia Party. They're back in it. They're saying they're putting out publicly a candidate form for the 2025 federal election. And we know at the last two elections, they contested every single seat in the lower house. They didn't win any of those. Their only Senator Ralph Babet's not up for a re-election till 2028. And as I understand, the current registration name rules is that they cannot actually re-register under a current name or a very similar one, for we know that could be taken to the court. What do you make of their efforts here? Because again, in terms of funding a campaign, Clive Palmer does have a lot of money.
Yeah, he does. And he's another person who will be very impacted by the new rules that have passed the parliament that will come into play at the next election. So in some ways, this is his last roll of the dice when it comes to being able to spend a huge amount of money to influence attempts to get elected representatives. What I would say is that if you look at, that communication was forwarded to me by a number of people who received it pretty early on. I don't need to keep my sources secret on that one, but in that communication, Clive says that he intends to challenge this rule in the High Court. He acknowledges it. So he basically says this rule exists. They're telling us we can't use this previous name because we voluntarily deregistered. we're going to try to challenge the validity of that restriction. And look, my take on it is this: Clive is somebody who is a very, very proficient and he loves litigation, and he's certainly not shy about going to the High Court. On this one, I don't think he'll win. I think that while I agree with his cause, and I think there should be as few restrictions as possible to political participation, and I think the UAP should be free to contest, notwithstanding that they voluntarily deregistered after the last federal election. I think that their High Court bid is doomed to fail, based on both the experiences of our party in Ruddock and Commonwealth and my own understanding of constitutional law. I'd be very, very surprised if they succeed. But the Libertarian Party stands alongside the UAP in this effort. We're certainly very keen to support them as far as it goes in what they're seeking to do, even though that would be against our electoral interests, strictly speaking. It would be to the detriment of my campaign if the UAP were on the ballot, but nevertheless on principle, and in keeping with our ideas that there should be as few barriers to political participation and civil liberties as possible. We definitely wish them all the best, and we're sort of alongside them in the fight. And look, should they fall short and should Clive fail to be re-registered, the timing of that decision will likely be too late for any other sort of course of action. So, we stand ready to support. We're very skeptical about the prospects of Clive succeeding, but we're ready to pick up the baton and continue running if there's a whole bunch of really activated, energized UAP voters and supporters and candidates looking for a home.
Yeah, and that'll be an interesting bid to follow. I just still don't get why they deregistered, to be honest. I mean, it's only 3 years between elections. I kind of dumbfounded at it a bit, but that's what they did, and we'll see if
The
there's
ways of Clive are many and mysterious, Leo. I think when we
yeah.
understand Clive's mind, that's one of the secrets of the universe.
Yeah, we will wait and see carefully there. Hey, just quickly, you mentioned it before in terms of your local elections campaign, massive success for your party, record success in a number of areas. A number of councillors, 10, I should say, elected in New South Wales. Of course, many off the back of the Liberal Party's failure to nominate, but also we have to acknowledge there were multiple results that would have been not impacted by the Liberals at all, or did better than the Liberals did in 2021. And we've discussed that in the past. And then also in Victoria, two endorsed Libertarians elected. There was also two other unendorsed members, I believe, got up. And look, the Victorian campaigns are a lot different. It's more officially not partisan, even though it is still partisan. Again, separate
Yes.
matter. How have you found the local campaign focus in both those states in terms of the build up for your party?
Well, I think that absolutely the momentum is undeniable. In both New South Wales and Victoria, both campaigns basically realised that if we had run twice the number of candidates, we would have had twice the number of councillors elected. So I think that it is a wide open space there for us. And I think that future council elections will absolutely see us redouble our efforts in that regard. And in terms of the impact for my campaign here in Victoria running for the Senate, I think it's been terrific name recognition. We had an article in the Australian today, not to promote a rival masthead on your channel, but the Australian sort of did tie together that momentum and really looked at what they called the increasing professionalism of our party and the extent to which we really are emerging as a competitor, not only in the minor party space, but I think to the Liberals and the flank of the Liberals in a way that other minor parties have not really been able to successfully do. Liberal Party voters are creatures of habit, very rusted on and very wary of taking too far of a leap. And I think our party has that real principled credibility that a lot of Liberal Party members, at least in terms of their Senate vote, might be prepared to consider.
Hey, just quickly, again, not trying to give away your campaign secrets here, but in terms of the 2025 federal election, at least we know at this point it won't be in 2024. We know which year it'll be. That sort of helps. How are you going to be really pushing this campaign? You've got new branding. You've got your ticket pretty much locked in. You've got candidates in other states locked in. A number of lower house candidates have started to be announced as well. Is it traditional core flutes? Is it targeting those Liberals? How are you going to do it? Because again, it would be pretty historic, and no shade on former, well, it was Liberal Democrat senators elected, but it was either under GVT or a double disillusion, and you have neither of those advantages here.
Yeah, absolutely. But the advantages we do have now are political experience. And I worked, Leo, on the campaigns in 2010 and 2013 for Corangamite on Sarah Henderson's campaign team. And I know what a winning campaign feels like. And I know the things that need to happen in order to win a winnable spot. And it takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of shoe leather being worn out. Senator Michael Ronaldson, former Senator Michael Ronaldson, who's passed away now, he used to say that to win a Senate campaign, you've got to be at the opening of an envelope. And I think that that's something I've always really taken to heart. And being organised, being early, like a lot of our candidates at the last federal election weren't even members of the party 6 weeks before the election. So they basically joined up when the election was called. We've now got a cohort of people who have been local government candidates. They've been state and at the last federal government candidates. That veterancy and experience, both in terms of the candidates and in terms of the party and the party volunteer structure and leadership, those things are invaluable. And I think that if we do succeed at, I agree with you, what would frankly be a pretty historic and Herculean task of kind of winning a genuine grassroots Senate race without all those advantages or factors you talked about. I think that what I would love to see is on election night, Anthony Green not being able to say, well, this was just the vagaries of circumstance or name confusion or whatever else. I'd love for this to be the point at which nobody would be able to deny that a senator had been elected because enough people agreed with libertarian ideas.
We will watch it very, very closely. Jordan Ditloff, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Leo.